Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Rosen Sports Monday, brought to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood, our friend Charlie Swanson. We will be hearing from them a little bit later in the show. As you know by now, I'm a proud new owner of a new Lexus RX, and I'm loving driving it everywhere, especially on a beautiful day like this in the Twin Cities. Special guest today, a good friend of mine and a good friend of anyone who's been following the Vikings for over the years, and longtime punter, longtime sideline reporter, longtime just everything for the Minnesota Vikings. Greg Coleman coming to us from Jacksonville, his home in Jacksonville, Florida. And Greg, thanks for joining the show. I know it's been a sobering weekend for longtime Viking fans. The passing on the same day, I believe, of both Jeff Seaman, linebacker, who was with this team for a long time and established himself as one of the best in the business, and then one that really hit, I think, a lot of fans who probably more recently, the passing of Joey Browner. And I got goosebumps even just saying it right now. You knew both of these gentlemen. I used to see them a lot at the Legends weekends when they would come to town. And I know Jeff was having some issues with speech and, kind of post-football career stuff. And he's with his family. But one of the most cerebral players, I think, ever played the game, and certainly a ferocious player on the field. And then, of course, Joey Browner. So how did both of these passings hit you this weekend?
Mark, you said surreal, and that's a good adjective. It's been a tough month for the Minnesota Vikings, losing Ronell Young, and then, earlier, and now these two. I'm tempted to take my Viking jersey off the wall. I mean, if God is calling all of these Vikings players home, must need some great guys, because both of these guys that you mentioned, Jeff Seaman, salt of the earth, Joey Browner, one of the greatest teammates that you can ever imagine. And it's so interesting, the parallel of both of these men during my journey as a member of the Vikings, because one of the first people that I had the opportunity to really communicate with after Bud Grant told me on that Saturday morning, hey, go get a contract done with Mike Lynn because you're punting against the Packers on Sunday. Jeff Seaman was my personal protector. And he and I had to get on the same page very, very quickly. Touch, which side do you want to kick to? You want to kick to the right or kick to the left? So we had to, find some signals and all of those things. And we literally had to do that overnight. We had to do it on the fly because, let's face it, my forte was kicking to the corners. So Jeff was one of the first people that I really, really depended on because he was a guy that made the calls, my personal protector. And lo and behold, a few years later, we signed this, up and coming guy in the secondary called Joey Browner from SC. With all of the talent in the world, and I can remember it like yesterday. Bud said, Joey Browner, you're going to be on the punt team. Call a punt team. He said, Touch, which side you want him on, right or left? I say, heck, Bud, it doesn't care. As long as Joey is one of my gunners, I'm going to find which side he's on, and that's the side I'm kicking to. So both of those men played a big part in my career, in my journey. Jeff, a mentor, so to speak. He led our Bible study, our weekly Bible study that he and Don would host for the team for many, many years. So it was more than a teammate, more than, you wearing the same jersey, the same helmet. Jeff, a deep man of faith, as most people would know, salt of the earth. And he meant a lot.
It's interesting, Greg, again, we're talking to Greg Coleman, that both these gentlemen you mentioned who are all-time greats with the Minnesota Vikings were both on special teams, which you just don't see today. Jeff Seaman being your personal protector. This guy was the middle linebacker on arguably the greatest defense the Vikings have ever had, with the Purple People Eaters. And, the rest of the names who are listening today. But Jeff was, playing in the middle all the time, and yet he was your personal protector on punts. That stuff would never happen today.
No, but that's why Bud Grant would always say that special teams is going to win you at least minimum of 3 games a year. Because not only was Jeff Seaman on the punt team, you had Matt Blair on the punt team, you had Fred McNeil on the punt team. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And these are all pro players, as you mentioned, in the top 50 of all-time Vikings. Joey Browner. I mean, like you said, who does that? You know, it's a lost art. But without question, special teams was directly responsible for 3 wins every year. And it was because of guys like Jeff Seaman and Joey Browner and Matt Blair and Fred McNeil. Yeah.
All those, and you just mentioned those names. They're all gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and I know my personal relationships in particular with Matt and with Fred McNeil span decades. And when you just mentioned those names and now add into them, it's, the passage of time speaks for itself, but I always wonder, and I don't know how you feel about it, about how much, the studies and the game of football, the concussion studies, and, especially the guys that played the positions like Jeff did and Joey and Matt and Fred, that they didn't have concussion protocols back then. I mean, how much in your own mind did the game contribute to maybe their early demise? They were still relatively, Jeff was 75, but these are young men.
Absolutely.
And that stuff like this shouldn't be happening.
Rosie, there is something to be said for technology and science. In the studies that have been done, there's no doubt in my mind that it plays a part on guys who were in positions. Let's say you didn't necessarily have to be a defensive lineman or linebacker, but you were pounding, this cerebral thing called the brain, and it's only so much that it can take until it starts to speak back. And I think that's what CTE does. It speaks back to the person, and until we get to the bottom of it, until we find some additional protection protocols, I don't think any of those guys would be in fear of playing again. But, what can we do better to protect ourselves? And you've seen a number of players active in a lot in the past walk away from the game because they've done their own studies and they've seen the reality of what could happen. And I'm not going to say that it happens to every football player, but there's a possibility. I mean, you can bump your head getting in the car like I do many times a day, Yeah,
we've both been there.
Yeah. But it puts it in perspective. It gives you a reason to be grateful and thankful at whatever part of the journey of life that you're in. Because there have been a number of guys who have been younger that have left this earth. Yeah. So I think when the good Lord calls your number, regardless of what part of this journey that you're in, it's time. But I do believe that CTE, I mean, even going back to a number of guys, I mean, I even think about Wally Hilgenberg now and Mick Tingelhoff. The list goes on and on and on. So there's enough evidence. There's enough evidence in the body of work of men who played this game called football. There will be some damage.
Yeah. You mentioned Joey Browner playing on special teams. And for Viking fans who remember watching number 47 over and over again, one of the maybe the strongest hands of anyone that ever played the game. I remember he had that famous moment, the Monday night game, when he chased down the Denver Bronco running back. Was it running back? It was right after the Twins won the World Series, I think, and he grabbed him. Today, that would have been penalized. He did the old horse collar and brought him down and brought him down on his wheel height and broke his leg.
Yeah.
On the field at the Metrodome. But that was an exceptional moment. But Joey played the game at such a high level. What struck you about his? What made him so special and such an all-pro for pretty much every single year that he played the game?
Mark, I think you have to look at his mindset. Not only his mindset, his physical ability, but the mindset of Joey. Joey was a warrior, and if you remember, Joey took martial arts and taekwondo and all of those things to strengthen his God-given ability. I mean, he came from a historical family of great athletes, and
Sure did.
so Ross and Keith and, the list goes on and on and on. But Joey perfected what God had given him through his martial arts. I used to say that Jim Marshall had the strongest hands that I have ever witnessed. But I think Joey Browner was right up there, man, because he was an amazing athlete.
I remember maybe not, the late Mike Lynn, who was a general manager for the Vikings. Mike had kind of an ego. He came out and said he was proud about how cheaply he signed Joey Browner to his first contract. I don't know if Joey had an agent or helped him, but I got my first guy, da 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 da, and I'm going, oh boy, Mike, I wouldn't be bragging about that. I mean, but listen, it was a different time back then, financially, and what agents had an opportunity to get. And I know they have a rookie salary cap right now, but it's a little bit more advantageous for the players than it used to be.
Well, you have to look at the makeup of Joey Browner. Joey was a first-round pick, but Joey was not a diva. Joey was humbled to play the game called professional football. And with that, you're right. There were some people that took advantage of him. And, and Mike was one of those. Unfortunately, sometimes you can never recover from that. Sometimes guys get bitter. And I think Joey was for a little while. But time has a way of healing most wounds. Because Joey stayed away from the organization for a while, but he came back full circle, like a lot of former Vikings have done. But it took someone special to say, "Hey, we know what happened. We had nothing to do with that, but embrace them again." To give a person a hug, sometimes we all need hugs, and the organization reached out and hugged Joey Browner, brought him back into the fold.
Yeah, I saw him many times at the Legends weekends, Greg, being a part of it, and it was always great. Always had a big smile on his face. Yes. Loved talking to people, loved talking to the fans, and was instrumental in so many, good things that happen in our community. And yet it's just such a different time right now. If you look at, the Jeff Siemens and the Joey Browners and the Fred McNeils and the Matt Blairs and what the players have opportunities to, because a lot of these guys you mentioned, you knew them well. I mean, we're not going back to, the Marshalls and the rest of them. They had to find work outside of football. Football was not paying you enough money to make a living year round. You had to go get a job, right?
Rosie, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me after I was drafted by Cincinnati, I did not make it. I had to come back to Jacksonville, and I had to find a job. And I was a substitute teacher, and then I went on to be a regular teacher, making $9,500 a year.
Oh my.
$9,500 a year. That taught me that this game could be gone in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
And that I had to prepare myself. I mean, I have to give you credit. Damn, do I really have to give you credit?
Yes, you do.
Dang.
Come on, suck it up.
Because each offseason, I tried to make sure that I made myself marketable, that I was hireable. All of those things. I did some internships and, came down and, gosh, do I have to say I sat up under your tutelage to learn a little bit about the
truth
the media
hurts.
Yeah, it does.
No.
Yeah, it does.
But you did, Greg, and I give you a lot of credit because, my guy, Ahmad Rashad, was the one who kind of started that broadcasting after football life, and he came down but you did the same thing. I had a lot of guys that say, look, I want to be on TV. I want to, we see it happening all the time now where these guys get hired right after the football career. They don't have to kind of pay their dues. Yeah. All of a sudden they're on a network set.
Yeah.
Whereas even Ahmad, as the stratosphere he hit with his career, you did the same thing with your own way, but you weren't too big to take on a different assignment, covering a high school game or covering whatever it might be. I always appreciated that you wanted to pay your dues and do the things that journalistically and helping you become better at what you wanted to do.
Well, Rosie, I enjoyed what I do. For the most part, and I've been blessed. I've been very, very fortunate. Most of the things that I have done in my career, I've enjoyed them immensely. whether it was grunt work or, gosh, each area, whether it was corporate America, I enjoyed working in sales and marketing. I enjoyed taking market share from the 800-pound gorilla. In my speaking business, I enjoy inspiring people to do something to get better. So I have no complaints about anything.
Yeah. Well, you've always been a joyful person and a dear, dear friend over and over again. I'll tell you, let's take a break right now and come back, and we're going to hear from our sponsor. I want to talk about what's going on and get your opinion about the Vikings today, where we are, not just from a player personnel standpoint, but management, and as we approach the draft and everything else. And will this be the year? We've been saying it forever and ever and ever. We're talking to the one and only Greg Coleman. Stay with us here on Rosen Sports Monday. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. As I have told you, I recently purchased a new Lexus RX, and it is fantastic. The best car I've ever driven. Lots of room for a tall guy like me, and it just drives like a dream. Charlie Swanson and his staff have been so good to me, and I can't say enough about the wonderful treatment I've received from the service department to the people at the front desk. They're all very welcoming. We purchased an all-gas model, but keep in mind it also comes in a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. And I think my wife is going to do an NX Lexus this spring. So go to Lexus of Wayzata or Lexus of Maplewood and come and see what they have that works for you. And welcome back to Rosen Sports Sunday. Again, a big thanks to Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood and Charlie Swanson. And we're talking with Greg Coleman now. A young 71, is that right? I mean, because I know how old I am, but I mean, do you find yourself thinking that when you say that out loud, or your beautiful wife Eleanor? I mean, this has been a long chapter, but life does go on and on and on, and you have to keep yourself as physically fit. I know you play a lot of golf.
Yes.
But do you feel good? Are you feeling, staying on top of what needs to be done? Because that's what I'm doing all the time.
Rosie, this part of the journey is one of adjustments.
Yes, that's a great word for it.
Yeah, if you can't adjust, adapt, and execute to a different game plan, then you may as well just pack it in. Because this back nine is a heck of a lot different than the front nine. Can I do a lot of the things that I did on the front nine? Absolutely not. Do I have to change prescriptions because I can't follow the golf ball as far and all of those things? You do whatever it takes to keep the old man away, because Father Time is undefeated. But it's what you do between that time. I say that the 50s, for me, in my mindset, the 70s are the new 50s. I still love getting up, active. We involved in a number of activities. We inherited a nonprofit event down here, the Bob Hayes track meet that we just finished last weekend. And I mean, the post Viking broadcast, the post corporate side of our lives. But we're loving it. We're enjoying it, enjoying the kids, enjoying the grandkids.
Greg, you were immensely, obviously, involved with the Vikings as a sideline reporter, and your voice was.
Wait a minute. I was not a sideline reporter. I was a sideline analyst, and analyst. It's a big difference between a reporter and an analyst, man.
Okay, don't get mad at me. I'm not Scott Studwell or Darren Nelson. That's a whole nother show we had. But we're so used to hearing your voice, and you decided, kind of your decision. Do you miss it? Is it something you still you wish you could do, or is it next chapter, move on? And Rosie, that's like you said.
Let me tell you something. Do I miss the game itself? Yes. Do I miss a lot of other stuff that goes along with it? No. Yeah. But I said that Eleanor and I talked about it. She said, "How long are you going to do this?" And I, we had a window. And it was coming up right around COVID. And I said, "Baby, I can't leave during COVID." I say, "I think we got a good chance. Let's ride this year out." And I was commuting back and forth, because we had made the decision to move to Jacksonville. Mom's health was failing, so needed to get a little bit closer. And I found myself missing the game, but not missing the other stuff. So, Rosie, what do? We retire, we come down, we travel, we do what we need to do. We raise grandkids and spend time with family, reconnecting here in this community. And I get talked back into by the great Charlie Neal. I call him the godfather of black college sports. And he said, Greg, please come and do a game with me on HBCU Go.
Sure.
So I do a game on HBCU Go and had a blast. So I got to tell you, and I did 3 games the following year. Last year, I did 6 games in the booth, calling college football games for HBCUs. And
Fun.
I am loving it.
You're doing it again this year?
I will do it again. I'm not sure how many games I'm going to do, but it's so amazing.
Keeps you in the game.
It keeps you in the game, and you see some of our contemporaries who are now coaching at HBCUs. I love the programs and going back on these campuses that I went to as a collegiate player. So it's a second homecoming for me. Living a dream.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it is. Greg Coleman always took control of his own life and his own career, and your raw enthusiasm comes through, and I think it's a lesson for all of us because, as you said, Father Time is undefeated. It is so. What advice would you have for folks who are continuing whatever field they're in to kind of dealing with the aging process, as far as staying active mentally and physically? To try to stay ahead of the curve, as they say.
And I think you used the word active. I think you have to stay physically active, but more than anything else, Mark, I think you have to take control of your mind. And I'm a lifelong learner. I think as long as I live, I'm gonna be committed to learning something, how to get better. And even in my speaking business, I encourage organizations and leaders and associations, get 1% better each and every day, whatever that might be. If it's a businessman, if it's a CEO, if it's a player, if it's an athlete, even if it's a stay-at-home mom, get 1% better each and every day. And if you look back over that journey, that body of work, if I get better each and every day, if I find something that I enjoy, if I speak positive affirmations about myself, because words are powerful, Rosie, and you've heard me say this before. The old saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a lie from the pit of hell. I can remember what my second grade teachers told me many, many years ago, but I also remember the teachers, the coaches, the mentors who said, you're better than that. You can be what you want to be. Pop Kittles, my kicking coach at FAMU, said kick it to the corners and they'll find a place for you at the next level. So words are so critical. So surround yourself with good words. I mean, I don't think you got to BS yourself, but you know, the reality is that we all need to be positively fed. Whatever you feed, it's going to grow. If you feed positivity, it's going to grow. If you feed negativity, it's going to grow. So the choice is yours.
We are speaking with Greg Coleman from Jacksonville, Florida, and I know it goes without saying that you are still very much in tune with the Minnesota Vikings as best you can be from a distance. I want to get your thoughts on sort of the building process that this team is going through with the league meetings going on out in Arizona right now with Rob Brzezinski as the acting GM, Kevin O'Connell back, of course, as head coach, and a very interesting quarterback room as we speak with J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and a guy named Kyler Murray, who they just picked up from Arizona for a year at least. Man, you've been in a lot of weird rooms over the years. How do you think this is gonna end up? And what's the thought process for Rob in particular, KOC, in bringing in Carson Wentz to compete, and where J.J. McCarthy's head's at after kind of a very fragile couple of years for the young man?
Well, in any professional sports, you got to have a room full of Band-Aids. And I think this team right now is looking for a Band-Aid. Obviously, you thought you had hit the jackpot with JJ, big upside. But, I got a picture of Bud Grant on my wall and as I look at it. And he says, Touch, I don't care how many games you play. But if we don't win, there will be changes. And that's the gospel of the NFL. In organizations and ownership, they're sort of buying into the microwave generation. We want to win, and we want to win it now. Instant coffee, instant tea, instant disbelief. But sometimes to have a Super Bowl quarterback, yeah, you may hit the gold mine every now and then. That's rare to have a young guy to come in to lead you to the promised land. But more than often, it takes time. But a lot of these organizations don't have the time because there's a short window. There's a window that you have with Justin Jefferson and Justin Addison and the running backs that you have there, that talent pool. So we're going to do whatever we can. If we have to take a loss, we'll take a loss. But we've got to show, number one, that locker room, that organization, that fan base, that we're doing whatever it takes to get to the promised land. And the Vikings are no different than any other team.
But you look at a young guy like J.J. McCarthy, who's made, I believe, only 10 starts because of injury and lack of excellent play or whatever it might be. But I don't think there's really a lot of surprise that Kyler Murray is coming in here, and he has a prove it year, even though he's been in the league for a while. So my question is, how does J.J. McCarthy show that he's getting better, that he's kind of gets it in whether it's training camp, OTAs? I can't imagine him playing maybe that much in the preseason. And if he is in the preseason, he's certainly not going to have Justin Jefferson as his wide receiver. So it's kind of an interesting study to me in how a young quarterback that came out of a draft that was filled with really good quarterbacks, start with Jaden Daniels and go on and on. Bo Nix even made it to a championship game last year. How does JJ prove that he's ready for this moment, I guess, other than in practice?
And you hit it. That's practice for him is going to be critical because he's not going to get a whole lot of playing time. He may get, even if he does during the preseason, it's with the second and third team, offensive unit. So you don't really get an opportunity to show what you can do with a Justin Jefferson in that front line offensive talent that you have. So everything from the classroom to how you interact with your teammates, your coaches, how do you respond? Because they're not looking for how he reacts. Because I always say that when you react, it's full of emotion. But if you respond, then it gives you an opportunity to pump the brakes a little bit, to add a little wisdom in there. So what's the best way for me to respond versus reacting? Because your feelings will be all over the place.
Now, the Vikings brought in a new punter this year, Johnny Hekker. Is that it? Yeah, he's been around the league for quite a while. I kept thinking it was going to come back to him, and maybe they might be calling Greg Coleman so you could become the oldest punter in the history of the National Football League. I'm looking at the picture behind you right now with that outstretched leg. You sent me one on my phone that was recent. You still get that high kick Rockettes look about you. I'm going, so I'm serious when I ask you this question. If you were put on a football field and got a chance to practice for a little bit, could you still punt the ball as well? What would be the one thing you couldn't do as well as you did, 20, 25 years ago or more than that?
Probably hang time, and I was not a big hang time guy, but I could give you 35 yards out of bounds. Forget about hang time. But it would be out of bounds. Return guys wouldn't touch it. So you give me a good month and a half, I could get you 35 out of bounds.
Come on, let's do it. Well, it's too late now. The money they're paying Hekker.
But no, Rosie, they ain't enough zeros. My wife would tell me to get your old behind off the field. You're not playing anymore. Get out of there before somebody breaks you up.
Well, you did mention you're kicking the ball out of bounds. You did. The coffin corner kick seems to have been a lost art. You don't see that very much. It's all about hang time. They kick it up in the air, and then the returner's waving his hand.
It's the Aussie rule punt that came in, and Darren Bennett, former San Diego Charger, Minnesota Vikings, played for a year. Now everybody is using the Aussie rule punt to down it inside. They try to hit a pitching wedge with a little backspin on it.
Right.
But, and that's hoping with luck and all of those things. But I believed enough in my ability that if I kicked it to Joey Brown, if it didn't go out of bounds, Joey Brown was going to make the tackle. Keith Norton was going to make the tackle. Terry LeCount was going to make the tackle. Carl Lee was going to make the tackle. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about great gunners. So it's taking what you do well. And that's one thing that I could admire Bud Grant for. He's told me, don't worry about, leading the league with average because it's going to get winter. The ball is going to be hard and all that stuff. He said, but keep kicking it to the corners. And that's what kept me in a Vikings uniform for 10 years.
You did it, and you did it so well. And I think about you on the sidelines and the moment that stands out, and I had that visual of you pointing towards the end zone when the Minneapolis Miracle happened. And Stephon Diggs caught the ball. And if I recall, you were pointing. It was just like, go this way, young man. What do you recall about that moment? Because it's still, one of the greatest moments in Viking history, and certainly shocking. It happened at U.S. Bank, and unfortunately, the Vikings weren't able to eventually capitalize on it. But what a moment that was!
Rosie. Some people, when I share the full story, some people said all of that went through your head at that moment. Absolutely, I remember Wrong Way Jim, and I remember going back to a playground when you put your head on a bat and you spun around. That was sometimes we used to do drills like that, and you get disoriented. So when you put your hand in the ground and spin around, and I saw Steph do the same thing, I wanted to make sure that he went the right way. So I pointed him in the right direction. That was the whole.
Because he could have been disoriented.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes, Rosie, we all need somebody to point us in the right direction. Like we all had to help you, pointing you in the right direction. My God.
Okay, that's come on, man. Those were some great times, and I just ran into Scott Studwell last week, and they had a nice retirement affair out at TCO for Adam Thielen and C.J. Ham.
Yeah,
both great individual stories, unbelievable coincidences. Both played high school ball here in Minnesota, college. And their paths crossed for many, many years, and both are going to do quite well in their post-football careers. But ran into Scott, and his body's hurting, and he's hurting, and he's feeling the aches and pains, and I worry about him a little bit as well. But he still had that Scott Studwell smile and sense of humor about him. But it's great, always great to see those guys, and I know they mean a lot to you. It's a family. I mean, it really. That's the one thing that I think about with football players. And that you played with, and it's still that the Vikings organization does honor their legends, and it's so important to recognize that. And I think the fans really appreciate that.
You talk about CJ and Adam, two young men that I watched come in that took advantage of an opportunity, regardless to how small it was, because most people didn't give CJ Ham a snowball chance in Havana. Or Adam Thielen, that same chance of making this Vikings football team. But they put their foot to the grind and took advantage of every opportunity. Special teams. They were on every special teams. And it was just the attitude about working hard. And in those two guys, I can say, you know what? I found myself falling in love with both of them.
Yeah. They're just great stories. And they're young men. I mean, you know this better than anyone.
Oh, yes.
They're just starting their life, basically their second career right now in their 30s. I mean, that's not a bad place to be. And it's wonderful for both of them. I had a chance to speak with both of them last week.
But Rosie,
I know you love
there's so much life after professional football. There's so much life after the Minnesota Vikings. So to those two young men, the sky's the limit.
Well, Adam Thielen would love to spend most of his days on a golf course. I know that for a fact.
I ain't mad at him at all.
So do you.
That's right.
Now, have you ever played Augusta?
I have not. I've been there a few times, but have not played it.
Yeah. Okay. I would assume that would be maybe your dream round of golf would be at Augusta National. And I'm sure I know you've played some of the best golf courses in the country.
Yeah. You name them.
Yeah. So as your number of your age goes up, is your handicap going down, or where are we at right now?
Rosie,
it's not bad.
Rosie, asking a man about his handicap is almost like asking him, how many times do I kiss my wife? That ain't none of your business.
The most surprising person that I've ever met who played football for the Vikings that ended up being a golfer is Johnny Randall.
Oh my
I
gosh.
would never have imagined in a million years. He used to, I think, make fun of it, and you look at his body type, compared to, like yours. And Johnny was, I think he'd be too stiff. He's not going to be able to get the ball. This man will be on the golf course every single day if he could. And
absolutely.
With such joy. He plays the game of golf with the same joy that he terrorized quarterbacks with when he was on the football field. He and Randall McDaniel, your buddies.
I know, but let me tell you this. I can remember saying to my coach at Florida A&M, Pop Kittle said, baby, you need to start playing golf. He said, because kicking and punting is like hitting a golf ball. I said, Pop, I ain't chasing no little white ball. Ain't no way in hell I'm going to chase a little white golf ball. And right now, I'd rather play golf than eat. That's just how bad I got it.
Yeah, that's okay though. That's a great lifelong hobby. I assume you're going to be watching the Masters. Why wouldn't you not? It's one of the greatest events of the year.
Absolutely.
You have a favorite? Do you like picking up anyone that you like watching?
Oh
that
man,
appreciate? How about that story yesterday? I mean, I'm talking on Monday here.
Yeah,
Woodland. I mean, he coming back
amazing.
From a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big tournament. Doesn't matter from a public standpoint. But what an emotional moment that I caught as well. Those are the stories you just kind of wrap your mind.
And I found myself internalizing with him and thinking about not only the physical aspect of what he went through, but the mental torture. Because I tell you, you got one Jaybird on this shoulder and one Jaybird on this one. One is saying you can do it, and the other one is saying, oh, hell, you're done.
No chance.
And he had to totally ignore this other one for the breakthrough, because the time that he spent alone and curled up and in a fetal position. I mean,
PTSD.
Oh my God. It's real, man. It's real. So my hat's off to him. And, I'm hoping that JT wins one before he gets up in age. Justin is, one of the great guys on tour.
He is.
And I'm pulling for him, and I hope he gets it done.
I assume we'll still see Greg Coleman back in the Twin Cities as we get closer to football season a little bit. You like to poke your head in and out once in a while.
Yeah,
you and Eleanor are going to try to get back to see you got grandkids living back in town here
all
still?
the grandkids are living there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So you have to come home.
I don't have a choice.
Eleanor's the boss.
I don't have a choice.
I know that.
Because when the two youngest ones, they'll get on in Papa, Nana, when are you coming to see us?
Yeah.
So that's all it takes. And
that's all that matters.
And still, we got the golf tournament up in August, so we'll be up for a while there doing preseason. Rosie, can you believe this will be our 27th year?
Wow.
You've
raised a lot of money, haven't you?
We have, but more than anything else, we have seen the fruits of our labor. Kids who have started in the program, gone through wide programs, sports programs, beacons, mentoring, tutoring, all of those things, who are now come full circle and working for the organization. That's when you know that you're getting older.
Yeah. And you're doing the right thing. That's the other thing as well. Well, Touch, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you got some other commitments this morning as well, but I love you like my brother, and we've had some great years and times together, and we got a lot more to go.
Absolutely.
We're not done yet. We might be rounding the curve a little bit, but we got a lot more to go, my friend.
And we might be slowing down in that curve just a little bit, but as long as we make it around the curve, we're going to be all right, big boy.
All right. Thanks, Greg Coleman, the one and only. Appreciate it, my man.
All right,
Thank you. You've been listening to Rosen Sports Money. Appreciate you spending some time with us today. Thank you.